You are listening to the Call to Action podcast, where we aim to inspire, educate, and inform entrepreneurs and self-starters on tech and tips related to navigating this ever-changing world. David Wizman is from Toronto, Canada. In essence, his mission statement is to improve lives, so everything he does, from professional work to projects of passion, are in support of that foundation mission. When David is not working on his project of passion, he works professionally in the legal medicinal cannabis industry, competes in powerlifting on a national level, as well as invests in the markets. Listen in as he shares some great marketing advice, as well as some words of wisdom for bloggers. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to episode 20 of the Call to Action podcast. I am your host, Shantae, and today we're having a fireside chat with David Wizman, who is the author of the self-development newsletter, D Cubed. If you missed episode 19 of the Call to Action podcast, this is definitely a must listen. I had the opportunity to interview self-published author McGee Matthews, who was the author of Women Loving Women romance novels. McGee shared tons of information that I think any author could use if they're looking to self-publish their book. She also includes some great marketing tips as well. Now, before we bring our guest onto the show, I would like to share today's motivational quote. And today's motivational quote is by Chris Grosser. So here is today's motivational quote for episode 20 of the Call to Action podcast. Opportunities don't happen. You create them. Entrepreneurs, self-starters, did you hear that? I got to say that one more time. Opportunities don't happen. You create them. Now, let's take that throughout our day and weave it into our thoughts as we move forward as entrepreneurs and self-starters. All right, everyone. So I want to bring on our guest, who is David Wizman. David, welcome to the Fireside Chat on the Call to Action podcast. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Shantae. I'm amazing. Thank you. How are you?
I am wonderful. I am awesome. So, David, just so that you know,
Yes.
I like to break the ice on my show. I like to get to know the people that are on my show. So this is an opportunity for you to be able to share your superpowers. So David, share your superpower with the guests.
Amazing question. So tough question to answer, but I think my superpower would have to be the ability to pick up on people's energies. So it kind of sounds a little bit voodoo there, but what I mean by that is I'm very intuitive and empathetic towards people. So oftentimes, I'll be able to kind of pick up on people's energies or thoughts or states and stuff like that, even if they're not in the same room as me. Pretty interesting concept to try to explain, but for an example, a couple of days ago, I was chatting with a friend, or we weren't chatting yet, but I had like an urge to message a friend, and I haven't spoken to her in about 8, 9 months. And I messaged her, I texted her, and the moment I texted her, I received a message on LinkedIn at the same time. So I guess we both, sent the message at the same time, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Or yeah, it's pretty crazy. Or oftentimes I'll be like to my friend who I chat with every couple months, just pop in. I'll be like, hey, did you hear from so and so lately? And they'll be like, no, like haven't spoken in a couple months. And then like 10 minutes later, they're gonna text. Just weird stuff like that.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's actually pretty weird. But I guess that's the superpower.
You know what? I think that's cool. And this is something I have found in common. As I'm doing these interviews and I'm talking with you guys on the Fireside Chat, I'm finding that writers naturally, I think you all have that ability just to connect with people. And I think that's why you guys write. I'm starting to see
I
a
think
pattern
so.
here.
No, I think so. It's a great way to connect with people, but in an indirect way. Like when you kind of write things, it becomes timeless. And over time, people connect with that. And it's a very interesting and delicate way to connect without being in the same room or talking to them necessarily face to face.
Right, right. I definitely see a pattern here with that. Thank you for sharing that with us, David.
No, for sure. Thank you.
David, I find your superpower of connecting with people very inspiring, and I do like that. And now, what I want to know more about is what inspired you to write your newsletter and your blog.
For sure, that's a great question. It's always been a huge aspiration of mine to be a writer in some way, have a platform where I can share my thoughts, out into the world in hopes to kind of inspire others in a meaningful way and connect with them and stuff like that. And it's always been there, but it kind of kicked off late 2019. So at my company, there was a mass layoff for no reason of our own doings, and my friends were always like, just throughout my time there, they're always like, you should, write a book or do this, do that, just because like the things you share are very inspirational. And after that layoff, I kind of took it as the nudge. From there, I decided, let me make a website. I'll start there. So I built my own website,
That's
and
awesome.
then after, yeah,
It looks
thank you.
good too, by the way.
Thank you so much. It was a huge learning curve, so it was really hard at the beginning. But from there, I started writing a book, and the website was supposed to be a platform where I can share that book. But then I was thinking, this book is gonna take a long time to write. Just naturally from start to end, it's gonna take a long time. Let me create something that I can put out into market immediately and can complement the book once it's finished. So from there, I kind of created DCube, the newsletter. Every now and then, I'll create a blog post just to share some thoughts and stuff that aren't in the schedule timeline with the newsletter. And yeah, so it's kind of like a whole train at this point between the newsletter, the blog, the book that's in progress. So yeah, it's a lot of things going on there.
That's awesome. And I totally get it. Like with the podcast that I do, with the Call to Action podcast, I have that same drive. It's like I want to help people and I want to give people a platform to share what they do, like what you're doing. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, I think, we help each other. And the more people that we can reach by way of the blog and the podcast, the more of a positive impact that we can have just on the community as a whole. And plus, you never know when someone is listening to you at the moment or reading your blog at the moment that they needed to get that information.
100%.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like you're spot on with that. And the thing is about the newsletter, I send it out every Monday. So D Cubed is a Monday newsletter, and it's essentially one thought from me, one quote from another, and one question for you, the reader. And through doing that, it's absolutely amazing the kind of feedback and responses I hear back from people every Monday from like crazy places I never thought they'd even find the newsletter. Like a lot of Australians, Brazilians. I have a couple of people in Egypt and Morocco. It's like all over the world. So it's
Wow.
yeah, it's very interesting. And, sometimes I'll check my inbox and my email and just, lengthy replies of, this week's newsletter really hit home. It impacted me in this way. And here are my thoughts on it. And here's how I'm changing my own life based on the information I received. So it's very heartwarming for me.
Yes, David, that confirmation alone, it's awesome. Sometimes we just
For
need
sure.
to, right, just so for somebody to say thank you. I think it goes so far. So you're definitely on the right path with what you're doing. And I'm glad to be a part of what you're doing. And I'm hopefully, that you're glad I'm a part with what you're doing so we can help get this information out to people,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
It's the same idea as like just picking everyone up kind of thing. You build the tallest building not through tearing others down, but through building your own up and kind of being on the same level playing field.
David, thank you so much for sharing what inspires you. And now I know there's other bloggers out there who would like to know what advice would you have for them?
For sure. So um, I'll tie it home with the book I just finished reading. I just finished reading Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. My biggest piece of advice would be to, learn how to be acquainted with failure and to also not let adversity and failure cut your mission short. So what I mean by that is in the book, he talks a lot about to achieve mastery in any area of life, whether it's, athletic performance through, let's say, he mentions like coding and writing programs and stuff like that, and music stuff, music artists. So in any endeavor in life, just to kind of put in that 10,000 hours of work before you can expect to be great at what you do. So I think my biggest piece of advice towards anyone who's willing to start, whether it's a book or a business, whatever it is in life, is to stay true to your mission, number one, and to not let adversity and undesirable result turn you away or make you kind of feel, beat down. Because at that point, that's how you start to lose.
Right. That's important. Because when you're on your own, for example, or you're starting your own business, you don't always get every contract.
100%. Yeah.
So you can't stop. You
Exactly.
don't always get the deal. So, or you may get the deal, but it may not be exactly what you were shooting for.
Mhm.
So you're right. You got to keep going even when things don't always go the way that you want it, but you shouldn't let it stop you. That's really good advice.
For sure. To give you like another example, the same way is like when you're out in the world, making friends. Not everyone's gonna connect with your mission, and not everyone's gonna like you the way that you want to be liked, and that's okay. You're not everyone's cup of tea, but what really determines success in anything is the person saying no to you is it gonna dictate your eventual success? Are you going to stop because they said no, or are you going to keep working and picking back up and building the mountain higher and higher until you eventually succeed and hit your goal? That's really what it's all about, because at some point you're going to get that yes, and at some point you're going to whether it's getting the book signing or signing that contract that you want to sign at work, whatever it is, at some point it'll come. Just be patient.
So, David, tell us, how do you market your blog? Do you do any paid ads or social media? What works best for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I've done both. I don't know if it's a mix of me not being proficient with, doing the whole like criteria and stuff for Facebook ads. I've run Facebook ads. I haven't really seen any desirable outcomes, but granted, there's people out there like, Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, who are finding tremendous success with Facebook ads. So it must be something that I'm not doing well. Maybe I'll have to go back to the drawing board, but I've done Facebook ads, so those are paid. I found that most of the connection that I built comes from, just free platforms, whether it's Twitter. I found a lot of success through Reddit, just kind of finding the right Reddit or subreddit that caters to what your intended message is. But yeah, it comes down to trying to connect with people and being persistent so that eventually people associate your name with whatever it is you're trying to spread. That's pretty much it. I've done Facebook ads, like I mentioned, and haven't really seen the desired result. But granted, my newsletter is free, so I can't really, it's harder for me to justify, going 10 feet deep with paid ads when I'm not making any, return on the investment from a financial point of view. So I've really, gone deeper with the free side of things, just because financially it just doesn't click quite yet to market at on a paid platform.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It's interesting you brought that up because I actually did a podcast about marketing that you can do with either paid or free or a combination of the two. And you're right. You have to do what makes sense for you and what you're doing. So if there's no monetary return by investing in Facebook ads or Google AdWords, then don't do it, my opinion. Like what you're doing, you're doing what works. So if doing Twitter and Reddit is working for you, then by all means go with what works, because that is what's going to make the most sense. I
For
totally
sure.
agree. I think that's really good advice.
Thank you. I think it is also something I have to revisit because, granted, I had zero feedback, I guess, on the Facebook ads. If I was having tremendous success with Facebook ads that were paid, maybe I'd give it a little more thought and go in, every now and then, just run a Facebook ad and let it do its thing. But the fact that it was zero, it just doesn't make sense to keep beating the dead horse. But yeah, at some point maybe I'll revisit it. I was actually thinking about doing Twitter ads as well, so I'll keep you posted on that, how that goes.
Oh yeah, that would be good to know, because we could share that, what you did, which could be helpful for other bloggers who may be looking to promote their blog.
Of
So
course.
by all means, yeah, please share what you did and what worked for you, and, anything that you feel like that didn't work, so people can avoid those pitfalls as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
David, this has been awesome. And I want to go back. I do want to let you know I did sign up for your newsletter. So I did get it this morning. So I will definitely be checking that out later today.
Amazing.
And
Welcome.
yes, I'm excited about that. Now, for others who may be interested in signing up for your newsletter and reading your blog, how can they do that? You online.
For sure. So I'll start with the blog posts. All of my blog posts I post to my website. So davidwizman.com. It's spelled Wizman. I also post to Medium, which is like a blog website. It's Wise123. But in terms of like social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, all the links are on the website. So I'll just make it easier there. So if you head over to the website, davidwizman.com, you can kind of find all the links, whether it's all the social media or if you want to sign up to the newsletter, which is it's the tab on the top that says free newsletter. Just head right there and you're good to go.
Awesome. So, David, I do have one last request. So, my
Sure.
last request for you before we end the show is for you to share any last words of wisdom that you want to leave with the audience and with other bloggers.
All right, the hardest question of all. There's so many things I want to say, but I think the most important is whatever you do in life, do it for the right reasons and do it with passion. The newsletter I sent out today, I'll actually read it to you. Let's take a look. It said, "Life isn't a dollars and cents game. Do you feel pumped to wake up every day? If not, reevaluate what you're doing with your life. The ROI of life isn't money, it's to be happy." So I think with that message, it's important to pursue what you want in life, but do it for the right reasons.
I love that. Read that one more time. I like that. That was really good. Do
For
you
sure.
mind?
So, no, of
Okay.
course, of course. It's
Okay.
life isn't a dollars and cents game. Do you feel pumped to wake up every day? If not, reevaluate what you're doing with your life. The ROI of life isn't money, it's to be happy.
I love it, David. Definitely. I definitely sense the spirit of an entrepreneur coming from you over there, buddy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I really do. This has been awesome, David. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Call to Action podcast. I hope you enjoyed doing the fireside chat with me.
I had an amazing time. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I really enjoyed having you as well. So, everyone else, thank you for listening and stay inspired and stay motivated. And remember, opportunities do not happen, you create them. Until next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Call to Action podcast. Make sure to visit me on my blog at ctamarketing.biz. There, you can find articles for entrepreneurs and self-starters on tech and tips to help navigate this ever-changing world. Until next time.